Hello students, welcome to a new episode of Physics Matters. Today's our topic of discussion is photoelectric effect. We have discussed about the definition of the photoelectric effect and the experiments which leads to photoelectric effect. In today's class we are going to familiarize about the dual nature of the radiation and also why classical theory of the electromagnetic waves is not able to explain the photoelectric effect. Why we use the material property of light to explain the photoelectric effect. So these are all for today's classes. As we all know, a light is an electromagnetic wave. An electromagnetic wave is explained using Huygens wave theory. Huygens wave theory can be used to explain the properties like interference, diffraction and polarization of light. Huygens wave theory fails when it comes to the explanation of the photoelectric effect. So basically there are three reasons for this failure. The first and the primary reason is that according to electromagnetic wave, the energy density of an electromagnetic wave E is equal to half into epsilon 0 into E square. E0 is the amplitude. According to Huygens wave theory, or why we consider electromagnetic wave as a wave, energy is directly proportional to the amplitude of the wave. The intensity is always directly proportional to the ampere. It is not directly proportional to the ampere square. Intensity is directly proportional to the amplitude square. We increase the intensity, the amplitude also increases, and hence here we have represented E0 as the amplitude because E0 represents the maximum electric field, maximum possible electric field. The intensity is directly proportional to the amplitude, so the energies we can say that is directly proportional to the intensity. When intensity of light increases, the amplitude is also increasing and also the energy is also increasing. When the energy increases, the incoming light possesses more energy when the intensity increases. When this energy increases, we can say that the electrons emitted from the metal surfaces also possess high energy. The intensity has no effect on the energy of the electron emitted. In case of the photoelectric effect, it has no dependence on the intensity. Okay, it is only directly proportional to the frequency. Well, according to the classical wave theory, when we increase the frequency, there is no effect on the energy intensity. So this is the main problem which the classic wave theory is rejected for, cannot explain the photoelectric effect. The next problem is that it cannot explain the threshold frequency of the metal surface. The frequency does not depend on the energy density according to classical wave theory. The threshold frequency is the frequency below which, particular frequency of the light below which the photoelectric emission does not happen. According to the classical wave theory, if we use any kind of frequency or any type of whether it is high frequency or a low frequency light, if we increase the intensity, it is able to eject out the electrons, which is not possible in the wave case. Third and the final problem is that according to the classical wave theory, light is a continuous form of energy. When light falls on a metal surface, the electrons take some time to absorb the energy. After it gets the required energy, it will get emitted. There will be a buffer time for the electron to emit when the light falls on it. Photoelectric emission is an instantaneous process. Wave theory fails to explain that also. In 1905, Albert Einstein proposed the theory on the basis of the Planck. On basis of Planck, he said that light is made up of small particles called photons. and each photon possesses an energy of h nu, where h is the Planck's constant and nu is the frequency. So the value of the Planck's constant is 6.64 into 10 raised to minus 34. H is equal to E divided by nu. Dimension of energy is m L square T raised to minus 2, where that of the frequency is T raised to minus 1. So m L square T raised to minus 1. This is the dimension of Planck's constant. The unit of Planck's constant is joules per second. Joule second. For the explanation of the photoelectric effect, he proposed three conditions. The three conditions are: one photon only can eject one electron. W0, the explanation of W0. So what is W0? W0 is we have familiarized earlier in the previous class, and work function. I have also denoted that work function can be also represented as phi 0. The photons which possess an energy less than that of work function cannot eject out electrons from the metal surface. So the third condition is that if the photon possesses enough energy for the work function, the electrons get ejected out. What happens if the photons possesses much more energy than the work function? So the energy of the photon h nu, if it is much more greater than that of the work function, then it is utilized for two things. And the first case is for the expense of work function itself, and the remaining energy is utilized for accelerating the electron, which is giving a kinetic energy to it. When we write in this in terms of equation, we can write the energy of the incoming photon h nu is equal to the work function plus the kinetic energy. The threshold frequency is the minimum frequency that a photon should possess to eject out electrons from the metal surface. Suppose the threshold frequency of the metal surface we are taking is equal to nu 0. So then work function can be defined as work function W is equal to E into H into nu 0. So work function can be also defined as, so we can write that h nu is equal to h nu 0 plus kinetic energy. We can write the formula of the kinetic energy as half mv square. In the kinetic energy here, I am taking this h nu to this side. We can write as half mv square, which is the kinetic energy, is equal to h nu minus h nu 0. What has common as the Planck's constant has in common, so we can h into nu minus nu 0. All the photons won't transfer the entire h nu to the electrons. This complete transfer of h nu to the electrons is only possible if the collision is almost effective. Sometimes the collision may not be effective. When a beam of light falls on the metal surface, a lot of electrons get ejected, and these ejected electrons is always nearly less than the 1% of the total valence electrons. So we can say that the current caused due to the photoelectric effect is almost very small. And also, out of that 1%, the energy possessed by the electrons may vary from 0 to half mv square, half mv max square. So I have written the v max square. If and only if the collision is proper, the whole h nu get transposed to these two portions. If the collision is not proper, and if it cannot supply the enough energy as work function, the electrons then won't get ejected out. So suppose in case if the collision is not proper and it can give a certain energy which may be equal to the work function or slightly greater than the work function. So if it gives only the work function, the electrons get emitted, but the kinetic energy possessed by that electron is almost zero. And also if the collision is not proper and if it cannot give the whole energy to the electron, then the kinetic energy will be smaller, that is in between the 0 and half mv max square. So if the collision is proper, maximum kinetic energy is get, which is equal to the half mv max square. The energy of the electrons may vary from 0 to half mv max square. Not all the electrons possess maximum kinetic energy. In the next portion, we are going to explain about how the particle nature of light can be used to express the photoelectric effect of the light. Certain properties of the photoelectric effect which cannot be correctly explained by the wave nature of the light. How a particle nature of the light can explain the photoelectric properties. The first one is the explanation of intensity with current. So we know the intensity is directly proportional to current in case of the photoelectric effect, but we cannot explain that term using the wave theory of the photons. Intensity is directly proportional to current. Energy possessed by one photon is equal to E is equal to h nu. This is one photon, only one photon, and we say that the photon is a small packet of energy. Numerous these packets of energy together constitute a beam of light. When we assume that the light is made up of particles like photons, and also this matter we all see is made up of substances like atoms. If we divide these particles into and make it much more smaller, we can find atoms. Likewise, light is made up of particles called photons. Hence, a numerous amount of these large number of these photons together constitute a beam of light. So suppose there is a beam of light, and if we magnify it, it will be seen as the photons moving in the direction. Okay, suppose we magnify this beam of light, there are lot of number of photons. If suppose in an incoming beam of light there are n number of photons, then the total energy possessed by that beam of light is equal to n into h nu. What happens if the number of photons increases? If the number of photons increases, more electrons can be pulled out. If there is a metal surface and there are lots of electrons, if suppose in the incoming beam of light there is only 2 photons, then it can only eject out 2 electrons. Maximum, possibly they can, if the collision is proper and if the conditions are correct, they can eject out maximum possibility of 2 electrons. What happens if there is lot of photons? Number of photons increases, the number of emitted electrons also increases, which means more charges were emitted. If the amount of charge carriers increases, we all have studied that the current is the flow of charges. What happens if the number of the charge carriers increases? Current also increases. Hence the first term is explained, the first property is explained. And then the second, the threshold frequency. The threshold frequency nu zero. Second, the photon. So the threshold frequency. So we have said that the energy is equal to, which means the kinetic energy Ke is equal to h nu minus h nu 0. I have said earlier. So if the frequency of the incoming photon is less than nu 0, suppose an electron can be ejected only out if the color of the light is orange. So if this means the electron from a metal surface can be ejected only out using an orange light, which means the violet is much more higher frequency than that of the orange, and hence violet can be used. So we are taking the case of the light with a lesser frequency, which means the red light. What if we use the red light? If we use the red light, this whole energy gets absorbed by the electron, but it does not possess the energy to overcome the electrostatic force of attraction in the metal lattice. So the electron stays there. So this is the case. When h nu frequency is less than that of the threshold frequency, this whole term becomes negative. If nu is less than nu 0, h nu is less than h nu 0, so the whole term becomes negative. So kinetic energy of an object cannot be negative. So it physically means that even though it absorbs the energy, it does not possess the enough energy to overcome the work function. Hence, it won't get emitted. Okay, if we get an answer of negative value, we must have to think that the electron is not emitted. It physically means only that. Okay, and then the third case is that the relation between the frequency and the cutoff voltage. Why, when frequency is increased, the cutoff voltage is also increasing? This is because the same can be explained using the same equation. So if we increase the h nu, this term becomes much more larger. Okay, this becomes much more bigger, which means more kinetic energy is possessed for an electron. Okay, when a photon charges an electron, it transfers its energy for the work function and the remaining energy for the kinetic energy. If it has much more excess energy after the expenditure of the work function, then the kinetic energy is much greater, which means we have to use a larger potential to decelerate the which means the reverse potential which we apply should be much more larger to stop the electron, to make the current is equal to 0. So that's for the third. And the fourth is the instantaneous emission. We all know that the momentum transfer and energy transfer is almost instantaneous. When a photon hits on an electron, the moment it hits on the electron gets the energy and it gets emitted. So the fourth term is also explained. So next is the explanation of the dual nature of the light. The light cannot be concluded as a particle because certain properties like interference and the diffraction and the polarization can only be explained if light is assumed to be a wave. When the light is assumed as a wave only, then the photoelectric effect cannot be explained. So we have to assume light as a wave for certain conditions and also light as a particle for certain conditions. The light has a dual nature, that it is a particle and also it is a wave. How can we explain the light as a particle? We have to consider light as a particle, that is, light is made up of photons if and only if mass related phenomena such as photoelectric emission. The next is the energy possessed by a light particle, which is the photon. E is equal to h mu, which I have said earlier. So that is the Planck's constant, and I have stated the value as 6.6364. It's a rough value, 10 raised to minus 34 Joule second. So we can write the velocity v is equal to velocity v of a wave is equal to mu into lambda, which is the frequency into lambda. So here the light possesses a velocity of c, which is 3 into 10 raised to 8 meter per second. Mu into lambda is equal to c. So we can write mu is equal to c by lambda. So this equation can be also written as hc by lambda. Okay. If it is a beam of light, there are numerous number of photons. A large number of photons make up the beam of light. So if suppose there are n number of photons in the beam of light, incoming beam of light, then the total energy of the beam of light, is equal to n into hc, which is equal to n into hc by lambda. This is the energy possessed by only a photon, and this is possessed by that of a beam. And next is we all know that when frequency increases, the energy of the photon increases. Okay. So next is the relation with the frequency. So when frequency increases, the new term increases, and energy possessed by a single photon also increases. Also, along with that, the energy of the light beam also increases because the new term is increasing. Hence, the total energy of the beam also increases. That is, the energy possessed by a photon also increases, and also the energy possessed by a beam also increases. And next is the intensity. So I have stated earlier that E is equal to n into h nu. Intensity defines the number of photons falling per unit. When intensity increases, the number of photons also increases. Hence, the total energy of the beam increases. But the energy of the photon remains the constant. Energy of single photon remains the constant. A collision between a photon and an electron is always elastic in nature. What means elastic in nature? It says that the total energy and the momentum is conserved. That is, the energy is conserved and the momentum is conserved. The total momentum before the collision is equal to the total momentum after the collision, and also total energy before the collision is equal to total energy after the collision. So energy and momentum are conserved, but the number of photons is not conserved. So I can explain that. Suppose if a photon is approaching an electron, and if the collision is proper and the photon transfers the whole energy to the electron, then this photon gets absorbed the energy. Since the photon is an energy packet, the whole photon gets absorbed by the electron. Okay, so that energy will give a highly kinetic, that is a kinetic energy possessed, that is an electron with a moving velocity. What happens if the collision is not proper? If the collision is proper, this is what happens. A moving electron. Okay. So if the collision is not proper, and if suppose it have the work function, and It has given the electrons certain kinetic energy also, but the photon is not totally absorbed. The collision is much inefficient, it's not proper, and even though it has certain kinetic energy transferred to the electron, but some energy remains there. Some energy remains there, which means a photon will get emitted out with a much lesser frequency. Okay, suppose I have a orange light with me, and I bombard the orange light with the photon of an orange light with an electron. So suppose if the collision is proper, the photon absorbs the electron absorbs the whole energy of the photon, and the photon gets absorbed by the electron, and the electron moves with a high velocity. If the collision is not proper, then the electrons absorb some amount of energy and it then goes away. This photon has a little energy left in it, which will be re-emitted as another photon with a much lesser wavelength. That is, if orange light is used and the collision is inefficient and there are certain energy packet remaining in it, and this packet will emit as a red light, maybe a red light. Okay, maybe as a red light. So that's what I have said. The number of incoming photons, whole photons, won't get fully transferred to electrons, kinetic energy possessed by electrons. Okay, the full energy may not be get transferred, but the total energy before the collision and after the collision, that is the sum of the energy before the collision and sum of the energy of photon and electron after the collision is conserved. Okay, next we are explaining the equation and the graph of the photoelectric event. So we have now that the kinetic energy K is equal to h nu minus h nu 0. Kinetic energy K is equal to energy of the photon h nu minus work function W0. When we apply a stopping potential of V0, at the instant when the current becomes zero, that potential is called the cutoff potential. The energy given by the potential against the moving electron will become equal to, if suppose the kinetic energy and electron is moving along the reverse potential, that is positive and negative, and if the electron is moving opposite to the electric field, that is along the electric field, with a kinetic energy Ke, and if suppose the energy at which this electric field is pulling the electron backwards, and also the kinetic energy of the electron towards that side, when the electron stops moving, won't get emitted out from the cathode. So we can say that when we apply a cutoff potential of V0, the work done by the cutoff potential on the electron is equal to E into V0 will be equal to the maximum kinetic energy possessed by that electron. Okay, the maximum kinetic energy possessed by that electron. So this is the maximum kinetic energy. I have to kinetic energy. So EV0 is equal to h nu minus W0. So next we are explaining about the stopping potential and the frequency graph. So here we have written the stopping potential. We have plotted the stopping potential on the y-axis and we have plotted the frequency on the x-axis. We have seen the graph as a straight line which has a slope of h divided by e. So when we plot the stopping potential along the y-axis and we plot the frequency along the x-axis, the graph will be in the shape of an inclined straight line. So the equation for an inclined straight line is equal to y is equal to mx plus c, where the two variables are y and x. Here the y is V0 and x is frequency. So we have seen the equation. Kinetic energy is equal to h into nu minus h into nu 0. So here we can say that the kinetic energy exerted on an electron is equal to the stopping potential into the charge on one electron. So we can rewrite the kinetic energy is equal to E into V0. So it is equal to small letter E into V0 is equal to h nu minus h nu 0. Okay. So we are dividing this equation by E. So after dividing we will get V0 is equal to h nu divided by E minus h nu 0 divided by E. So the resulting equation will be h divided by E into nu minus h nu 0 divided by E is equal to V0. When we compare this with the equation y is equal to mx plus c, we can get the slope m is equal to h by E and c will be is equal to minus h nu 0 by E, which is here shown that which is here shown in the negative plotted in the negative y-axis. So this distance will be w0 divided by E and this distance which is the x-intercept will be nu 0, which is the threshold frequency. So this portion will be the y-intercept which is equal to w0 divided by E. Since this is negative, it is plotted along the negative y-axis. The slope of the equation will be h divided by E. So from this we can say that the slope is equal to h divided by E. So the Planck's constant h will be is equal to slope into E. And also from the y-intercept which is equal to c, y-intercept which is equal to c, which will be equal to minus h nu 0 divided by E. So h into nu 0 will be is equal to E into y intercept. So E into nu 0 will be the h into nu 0, which is equal to the work function. So from this graph we can calculate the work function by calculating the y-intercept and multiplying it with a small charge called E. And also we can get the slope, we can get the Planck's constant by multiplying the slope of the graph with E, which is the charge of the electron.